HaShem Naaseh v'Natzliach. Baruch HaShem. Very happy to be here in New Jersey, in Maor YeShiva High School. It's mamash an honor to be with all of you tzaddikim, learning Torah every day. And as I told the few students I just spoke to, I'm jealous of you. Mamash jealous of you for a few reasons. Number one, for things that you probably don't realize, that the fact that you're here in this school learning Torah on a daily basis with Rabbanim Kedoshim that are teaching you the truth, that are inviting the truth, that are publicizing the truth. It's 100% Mesirut Nefesh in this Olam HaSheker, in this world full of lies. It's very difficult to find people that are yearning and publicizing the truth. So the fact that you have the zchut to learn in a school like this at such an age, you must have some zchut avot. You must have some mamash, like avot at tzaddikim that gave you the benefit of actually being here in this school. Now it's very difficult to understand and see what I'm saying today at your age. You know, if I was your age and I was in this school like this, I would think, my parents just sent me to this school, what's the big deal? But B'ezrat Hashem, you get to my age one day and you'll see what a privilege you actually had today. And B'ezrat Hashem, you won't have to wait 20 years for it. The other reason is because when I was young, I didn't have this opportunity. I didn't have an opportunity to learn Torah. I didn't have an opportunity to learn what is the purpose of life at such a young age. I was born in Israel in 1980, and we went to, in those days, Israel was less problematic than it is today as far as religious concerns, where it was easy to find a religious school. And so we went to a religious school, but it was a type of religious school where you're dati in school and chiloni at home. You're religious in school, you wear a kippah, you wear a tzitzit, but for the most part, many of the kids would go home, take off the tzitzit, take off the kippah. It was like a uniform. It wasn't really something that you really believed in. Moses was a nice character, like a comic character. Noach, very cool. He's the only survivor in the world. You didn't actually live those stories. You heard them. It was nice. It was interesting. But you didn't necessarily connect to it to such an extent where you say, oh, I have to learn something from this story to apply to the rest of my life. So anyway, I went to this school until I was 10 years old. When I was 10 years old, the land vomited us and brought us here to America. As it says in the Torah, when we don't do the will of HaShem, we don't have necessarily the zchut of living in Eretz Yisrael. So part of the punishment is HaShem sent us to exile. But HaShem loves us so much that even the punishment, He gives us the ability to enjoy. So we came to America. As soon as we landed, we went to public school. So now, instead of being half dati, half religious, now we're completely nothing. We just stop religion, start eating not kosher. I start wanting to be like the goyim because I'm surrounded by goyim. Once in a while you have a Jewish friend here and there, but he's also like me, he also wants to be like the goyim. You have an earring here, and an earring here, and an earring here, and an earring there, and eventually earrings other places, and you're lucky you still have a face left. And you want to live like the goyim, do like the goyim, and start connecting to the material world, where in order for you to enjoy life, you have to have stuff. You have to have a car, you have to have a watch, you have to have a girl, you have to have this, you have to have that, and after you get it, what happens? You want more. So Gemara says you give somebody 100, he wants 200. You give him 200, he wants 400. Meaning, who's the guy that has the biggest desire for money? The one that has the most. Who is the one that feels that he's lacking the most? The one that has the most. Meaning the guy that has $100 feels like he's closer to his goal of 200 than the guy that has $1 million, because the guy that has $1 million feels like I need another $1 million. So he feels like he's missing more. So you connect to the material world, and little by little get to a point where that's your only world. When I was 18 years old, I got a job on Wall Street. I started as a trainee, as an assistant for a brokerage firm. I'm shortening some of the story just so we have time to cover some other things, and some more details of the story are in the CDs that I sent you guys. Baruch Hashem, it's the first track. It's very, very popular. And I try to tell the story, a different version of the story, and also different chidushim along with each time, because after a while, I get bored of it, so I have to also enjoy it. So Baruch Hashem, at 18 years old, I went to Wall Street. You could say I had to pay my dues. You know, anytime you want to succeed in life, unlike the current generation that thinks that everything is supposed to be gifted to them on a silver platter, my generation, we knew we had to earn it. So you have to pay your dues. So you can't just be day one CEO of Google. At least. You have to start in a mailroom. You have to start as an assistant. You have to start as the guy that actually does all the work but gets no money. And that's what I did for the first 3 years on Wall Street. I worked for other people. I did everything I could to make them rich. I made phone calls. I made appointments. I did research. All the different things. I started my day somewhere around 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd finish at around 9 o'clock at night. Long day, a lot of phone calls, a lot of work. The best month was $1,800. Best salary that I had in 1 month over those 3 years was $1,800, but I didn't actually get the $1,800 because the boss found an excuse to dock my pay, because he said that one day I was on a phone, personal call for 1 minute, so I lose $100 for that. And another day, I didn't answer something the right way, so he docked another $100. And long story short, by the end of it, he gave me $1,160. So even the $1,800, he didn't pay me. So, long story short, after 3 years of working for other people, I changed a couple of firms, and eventually I realized that this is not going to work out. The only way for me to succeed is by me being independent within a company. So I told the manager of some office that I worked at, I told him, listen, this partnership is not working out. This guy promised me a lot of money. He ended up gypping me out of all the money. He owed me a few $1,000s. He ended up paying me $81. You know, obviously there's a little bit of a difference. And I want to be independent. So the boss, an Indian guy, said, okay, what's your intentions here? And me, being 21 years old at the time, said, to buy you out. I wasn't too humble. I had no money in my pocket, only a dream and some ambition. And I'm telling a guy that's already in the business for 20 years, a millionaire, and I'm telling him my intention here is to buy him out. Well, that was naive, ignorant, arrogant, combination of all, not really sure. Either way, it was entertaining for him. He said, okay, let me think about it. And he thought about it, and after a few days he said, okay, fine, you can start. You just have to know that every month, just for you to come and work in this office, you have to come up with $4,000. You have to pay me for the phone bill, you have to pay me a piece for the secretary, you have to pay me for this, you have to pay me for that, you have to pay me for this. And he gave me a whole list of different things I have to pay for. So before I even am able to take any money home, I have to pay him $4,000. Chas v'shalom that he lose money. So he said, how are you going to come up with the money? I said, I have no idea, but I'll figure it out. So this is what I do. I start working, and a couple of days after I start working, September 11th happens. Mazal Tov, Wall Street collapses. Not exactly the best time to recommend stocks to everyone, at least. No one wants to invest, everyone is losing money. And me being ambitious, driven, and so on, I say, well, listen, I don't really have much of a choice. I'm not going to change careers again. So I still have to convince people to invest because at some point these stocks are going to go up. So I start building a business even after September 11th, but I'm not able to make any money because even any money that I'm actually making, first, I don't have any clients. So even if I'm starting to get some clients over the next few months, which is very, very difficult, any little bit of money that I'm making, I have to give this Indian guy. So it gets to a point where after a few months, I ran out of the money that I had saved in the bank from a previous job that I had. I used to work extra jobs to make extra money on the side. And I ran out of the money, and I got to a point where I had $36 or $35 left to my name. And I got to a point where I had to sneak on a bus every single day in order to get to work. I had to borrow $1 from this guy named Dimitri in order so I could eat for the day. 50 cents goes for coffee, 50 cents goes to a donut. That was the food for the day. And every day like this for a few months. Difficult is a little bit of an understatement. But I had a lot of pride. I didn't want to go back to Abba and Ima. Oh, Abba, I need money. Ima, I need money. They had their own battles to deal with. I didn't want to be a headache for anyone. I said, listen, I'm going to survive. I'm going to figure it out. We're going to make it. We're going to make it happen. Eventually, after about 6 months after I started from being independent, I finally made $1,000, which to me, in a month, which to me was like all the money in the world. Like after paying this guy, I finally got to take home $1,000. I was excited, continued to work. The next month I made $5,000. Now I'm rich. Next month another $5,000. The next month $10,000. The next month after that $17,000. And then on November of 2002, approximately a year after I started, I made $117,000 for the month.
What, brokerage?
Brokerage, same thing. Yeah, same thing I was doing. Eventually got to a point where I built enough clients. One of my stocks worked out, went up in value while the rest of the market was going down. I sold the stock for everybody, made a lot of commissions. People started sending me more money. And I took home $117,000 for the month. And broke a office record. All of a sudden I became the Gedola office. All of a sudden everyone cares and likes me. So I take some money, I buy my parents a house, and the rest of the money I continue to invest into the business, try to get more clients, but life would never be the same. Because at that point I get a lot of clients, people start calling me, asking me if I would take them as a client instead of me chasing people. And little by little grow the business where it gets to a point where I'm making $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 a month. By 2003, a year later, I sell one of the big positions that we have. I make $601,000 for the day. So now, I'm a millionaire. So now I have to decide. Do I stay working for this company or do I build my next? Well, like any Israeli, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do, so I start my own company. Start my own company. I start hiring a bunch of salespeople, analysts, and so on. A bunch of people that actually went to college start working for me. I went to college for 1 year, but then realized that for me it was a complete waste of time. Not because college in general is a waste of time, but if you already know what you want to do and you know how to do it, there's no point of you going. Other than just wasting your parents' money, there's absolutely no purpose. If you're going to learn a specific profession, if you're going to become a doctor, you're going to become a lawyer, if you're going to school for an actual purpose, to get a certain degree, to do something with it, then there's a reason for it. But if you already know what you want to do and you could do it already, there's no point. In general, education, one of the major reasons for it, as you guys already know, and as I'm sure your teachers already teach you, first part of secular education is to teach you how to think. Teach you how to think, how to use your brain. As far as certain skills, that's above and beyond. So anyway, I already knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a salesman. I wanted to be in business. I was already in it. There's no point for me to go to school, so I stopped. Even though I was considered a Talmid Chacham, I had a 3.9 GPA. I was in honors school. I was already taking college classes in high school and blah, blah, blah. But again, I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a lawyer, and I didn't want to be in school for 100 years. So I went into the business world, and now I'm making money. And I'm getting all these other guys that went to college and are working for me. And little by little, we're making more and more money. And it gets to a point where a bad month is $200,000. And then, on May of 2006, I get to the biggest day of my career. We sell a big position that we had. We had many, many shares of this company called Sirius Satellite. We were one of the top shareholders of the company. And we also had a few big positions in other companies. I made a lot of money, and that day was the highlight of my career. I make $1.6 million. So, Baruch Hashem, the money is not just coming in, it's almost like we're printing money. We joined the Federal Reserve. Young guy in his 20s, have a big office, all these people work there, we're making money. But for some reason, the one thing that we don't have is a smile. The one thing we don't have is a purpose. The one thing we don't have is a plan of what to do with all of it. Because myself, I never cared for money really. I just liked making it. I just liked the competition. That's it. I just wanted to be the best. And making more money was just a way to grade yourself. Like I wasn't one of these guys that bought all the toys. I didn't care for a million cars. I didn't care for a bunch of houses. I didn't care for the watches. In my entire life, I never spent a dollar on a piece of jewelry that was for myself. I bought a couple of pieces of jewelry for my wife, but very, very simple ones, nothing like $50,000 or $20,000. Even though, like I said, we had plenty of money, because neither one of us valued material. But we liked making it because we were able to do things that were more meaningful. We were able to give tzedakah, we were able to help people, we were able to help our parents, help our friends. Something more than just like making the money. Everybody says, oh yeah, when I have money, I'm going to give a lot of tzedakah. Okay, let's see, once you get the money. If you like money, you're not going to give tzedakah. And the reason why is because naturally, no one wants to give something they like. If parents love their children, they don't give them up for adoption. Usually the ones that give up their kids for adoption is because they have mental issues and they're not connected to their children. People that love money don't usually give money. Unless there's a benefit, unless there's more money to get. Meaning the guy that donates $100 million to a hospital, usually, it's not because he cares for the hospital that much. Usually, it's because him getting so much notoriety is going to help him make another $500 million. Him getting notoriety is going to help him make more business. Or he just has to decide, either give $100 million to the hospital as a donation, or have to pay it to the government as taxes. So there's a tax benefit out of it. So he says, I might as well pay it for the hospital, and that way I don't have to pay any taxes, and on top of it, I get kavod. So if you really, really like money, and you have a huge ambition to make money for money's sake because you want stuff, you should remove from your mind that, yes, once I get money, I'm going to give tzedakah, because I'm already telling you ahead of time it's not going to happen. You like it too much. For some reason, I didn't. I don't know why, but I didn't. I gave most of my money away. Whoever needed it would come to my office, and I was so busy that an hour of my time was worth approximately $3,000 at the peak of my career. So if somebody wanted to talk to me for an hour, I had to evaluate my time. How much is my time worth? How much is this problem really, how important it is? So usually when I would know it's a personal issue, this may be a little bit, this is not a lesson to learn what to do. This is a lesson to learn not to do. I would usually ask somebody, how much does it cost? He would tell me his problem, start spilling his heart out to me, and I would stop him in the middle and say, how much does your problem cost? And he would tell me, oh yeah, well, you get to the point, so it costs $5,000. Okay, so I would just say, okay, so just stop 1 second, I take a checkbook, give him $5,000. Chazaku Baruch, Kol Tuv, and go back to my job, because I figured, okay, he's going to talk to me about this problem for 2 hours, it's going to cost me $6,000. If I just give him $3,000 right now, $5,000 right now, I'm saving money. And again, it's only because I didn't care for money. It was just paper. It's not even paper, because you don't actually get the paper most of the time. It's usually in some digital thing shows it to you. And that's it. So I gave money to a lot of people. Anybody had a problem would come to me. If I actually got all the loans that I gave to people, I would be a millionaire again. But one food for thought for all of you, if you ever want to give somebody a loan, just for yourself, don't think of it as a loan, because most likely you're not going to get it back. Unless it's somebody with Yirat Shamayim, there's a Shtar Iska, it's somebody that actually cares about the boss in Shamayim, most likely you're not going to get the money back, especially if it's small money. Especially if it's $100, $1,000, $5,000. You know, especially the people that comes to you, hey, listen, can you lend me $5,000 for this week? It's never this week. If $5,000 is going to help him this week, he could wait another week. If he was going to get the money next week, he'd just wait another week. The $100 is not for today. Oh, you give me $100, I'll give it to you next week. He's not giving me back to $100. It's just not. Most of the time. I'm telling you from experience. This is not to call everybody a liar. It's just a reality. Somebody gets to a point where they need $100. The problem is much bigger than $100. Which means that by the time he gets to $100, he actually needs to survive. He's not going to have the ability to give it back to you. So if you ever have the opportunity to serve Hashem with your money and giving somebody a loan, know that it's a mitzvah. But know that this mitzvah doesn't pay you in this world, because he's probably not going to pay you back, so you just consider it already in your mind as a gift. Give it in your mind. Okay, he could say it's a loan, and if he gives it back to you, chazaku baruch. But if he doesn't, don't be upset. Because if you're upset, you lose the mitzvah. And on top of it, you have to come back to this world in a gilgul, because once he doesn't give it back to you, it's considered theft. Gezel, he stole it from you. And then both of you have to come back to this world so he can pay you back the money. Who wants to come back to this world, Bichlal? We barely want to be here in the first place. So, just say, guy doesn't pay you back, say, okay, machul lecha, machul lecha, machul lecha, I forgive you, okay. If he gives it back to you, chazaku baruch, but most of the time they're not going to give it back to you. So just think of it as a gift. I helped Am Yisrael. So long story short, I start making all this money. My biggest toy was my house. I bought a nice apartment on the corner of Wall Street and Broad Street for a couple of $1 million. Didn't really have much time or patience to furnish it. So we had some simple furniture. Didn't really have much time to put window shades on it. So we put something simple on there too. We're just really busy with life, and again, this material stuff that you always want your whole life, eventually once you get the ability to do it, it's not that important. What was important to me was to continue to build this enterprise so I could figure out what is the point of all of it. Like what to really do. What I didn't realize is that I actually had the instructions of what to really do all along. I just never read them. It's like getting the best product in the world, or the cure for every disease, but never taking the pill. So Hashem throughout my life gave me different signs, and I just ignored them. And I gave them different names. Hashem would give me a sign, hey listen, you need to start laying tefillin on a regular basis, start keeping Shabbat, start learning Torah, start doing mitzvot. This is the purpose of why I created the world. I already believed in God, but it was my own version of God. It's not the God of the Torah, because I didn't really know the God of the Torah. I just knew that there had to be a God that created the world. I wasn't one of these fools that thought that everything came from absolutely nothing. It has to come from somewhere. So I believed in God, but I never actually knew that if I don't do it, there's like punishments, and like half the Torah pretty much is very scary. I believed in my own God, which like in today's world, people like think of Santa Claus. Like the God that owes you stuff, or gives you stuff all the time, but you don't have to do anything for him. Like most people think God works for them. It's like, I want this, 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 I want this. Okay, great, chazaku baruch, you want only. What are you doing for Hashem? When you get up to Shamayim, Be'ezrat Hashem, after 120, they're going to ask you a few questions. I'm sure you heard from your teachers. They ask you if you conducted your business with faith, meaning did you have emunah? Not that you conduct business and you were honest. That's already a given. But with faith, meaning, were you the type of guy that worked overtime because you didn't think that Hashem has any money? And you had to work overtime because How else are you going to build this giant house? How else are you going to go to 3 vacations a year? You worked 3 jobs because, hey, listen, Hashem ran, He built the world, He spent all of His money on creation, He ran out of money. But in Gemara, Masechet Rosh Hashanah and also Masechet Beitzah, it says that Hashem already decrees how much money you're going to get for the year on Rosh Hashanah until Rosh Hashanah. Meaning that it doesn't matter if you work overtime or not, it doesn't matter if you work 1 job or 2 jobs or no jobs. Your parnasah is already determined in Shamayim. So for anyone that thinks they need to be a certain profession in order for them to be rich, the Gemara is here to tell you, you're wasting your time. If Hashem wants you to be rich, you'll be rich. You could be rich being a stockbroker, you could be rich being a teacher, you could be rich being a garbage man, you could be rich selling Q-tips to hotel chains, you could be rich doing anything. There's someone rich and someone poor in every profession. There's someone poor that made all of your clothing. In China or India, one of those places, they make like $1 a month or something like that. I don't know how they live. But literally, they make like $1 a day or $1 a month or $1 a week. Somehow they survive. And they make all the clothes. And they make pretty much a lot of the products we use on a day-to-day basis. But then there's the guy that owns the place. And he makes millions. Same profession. There's the guy that recommends stocks. And he can make some money, he may not make some money. Some guys are successful stockbrokers, some guys are failures. But then there's the guy that actually owns the company that you're investing in. So he's the rich guy in every profession, meaning that Hashem decides who's going to be rich and who's not. You don't necessarily need to drive yourself crazy working overtime or thinking that I have to be a doctor to be rich, I have to be this to be rich, I have to do this. No, you have to convince Hashem. That's what you have to do. So now, little by little, I get to a point where the money is now becoming more and more meaningless. Because the more you have it, the more you want to do stuff with it, but then the stuff gets boring. In the beginning, when you first got a car, the car was fun for a year. After a while, you get another car, like, okay, so the car is fun for 6 months. After you get the next car, then it's fun for like a month. And eventually it gets to the point where it's not even fun at all. As soon as you got it, you already want something else. So I got to a point where I said, okay, well, what's going to happen? Eventually I have to donate some of this money, so I donated a Sefer Torah. I thought maybe that's going to be good to do. I donated some money to the Beit Knesset. I donated some money to some people, and so on and so forth, but still never got to a point where I have this feeling you call happiness. And the reason why is because happiness is a spiritual feeling. Meaning that in order for you to be happy, you have to be injected with something called spirituality. You can give somebody as many cars and houses and planes and whatever else they want, but they'll never be happy. Because it's the wrong cure. And this is the explanation for anyone that asks, why is it that some of these big movie stars and big celebrities kill themselves with drugs and alcohol and everything else despite having 100, 200, $500 million in the bank? You have this miskin, Robin Williams, was a Jew, top of his career, had a family, had kids, had plenty of money, somewhere probably in the neighborhood of $150 million, was considered very, very funny. But just in the last year or two, he killed himself. He had everything that everyone else thinks makes you happy. But to kill yourself, obviously you can't be happy. You have to be as far away from happiness as possible. Giving us a rayah, giving us a proof that money is definitely not going to make you happy. Now if I never had money and I told you money is not going to make you happy, then you say, what do you know? You never had money. I'm telling you I had some. It's not going to make you happy. But now I have to figure out what is going to make me happy. So I figured, you know what, maybe if I'm healthier and I'm better and then I start working on myself, so I start doing things independently. I start reading some self-help books of how to be happy, how to develop good relationships, how to do this, how to do that. And along the way I say, you know what, let's also work on my health a little bit. I had this annoying medical issue. I had hemorrhoids, which 2 out of 3 people have. don't worry, B'ezrat Hashem, you're not going to have the rest of the story that I'm about to tell you. This is my own personal tikkun. But I had this hemorrhoids that would bother me once or twice a year. That's it. It wasn't like a problem. It wasn't like something like stopped my life. It was just annoying. I went to the doctor. The doctor says, yes, it's a very simple surgery. You go have the surgery. It's a same-day surgery, meaning it's very simple. It's called an elective surgery. You could choose to have it or not. It's not going to change your life as far as if you don't have it. It's just going to, if you have it, we cure it, and you're not going to have this issue twice a year. That's it. I said, okay, so what does it take? Well, you come to the office, I have the surgery, or you come to the hospital, you have the surgery, under anesthesia. You sleep for an hour or two, we have the surgery, you wake up with morphine in your body so you're not feeling any pain. You go home a few hours later, you have a little bit of discomfort, which in English means pain, for a couple of days, and then you're back to work. Okay, fine. Doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world. Fine. I said, my biggest problem was, when do I go back to work? Because $3,000 an hour is expensive. So he said, listen, you come in on Wednesday, you're back to work on Monday. I said, okay, so I'm taking a vacation for a couple of days, not the end of the world. Fine. I go to the surgery, perfectly healthy. I wake up as sick as can be. I wake up out of the surgery screaming and yelling in pain because I'm feeling that somebody's taking a dagger and cutting my body open over and over and over again without stopping. And the dagger is also connected to electricity in my, is what I'm feeling. I'm being electrocuted and cut up at the same time. I'm screaming my lungs out, asking whoever's next to me to kill me. No one wants to listen. Eventually I see my wife and my mom, and I ask them to kill me, and they also don't want to listen. The doctors continue to give me morphine, and then they discover that my body's rejecting it, meaning the morphine is not working. Now, I never took drugs in my life because I actually like my brain. So now when we finally take drugs for use to actually limit this pain, it's not working. So initially the doctors asked my wife, is he a drug addict? Maybe he has such a high tolerance. She goes, no, he's anti-drugs. As a matter of fact, I paid for a few of my friends to go to rehab because of how much I hate drugs. And all drugs, whether it's crack, cocaine, or even something that people think is simple and meaningless like pot. Because it's legal in parts of the country, everybody thinks it's a mitzvah. Everyone thinks that doing pot now is a mitzvah. No, look, it helps cancer patients. Okay, do you have cancer? No. Yeah, but it helps this patient. Okay, do you have it? No. So what do you have? I'm just bored. Okay, bored. You want to ruin your brain? Good luck. Good luck ruining your brain. Good luck ruining your life. It's not going to help you in any way. All you can guarantee yourself by doing pot is that you virtually become an official loser. Maybe not necessarily a loser in life, because a lot of people have this visual of people like Steve Jobs and other celebrities that smoke pot. Like, look, he's a winner because he has money. Having money doesn't make you a winner. Having a life makes you a winner. So when you have a couple hours of time where you're just high and doing nothing with your life, and you're excited about some type of potato chips at 3 o'clock in the morning, that does not make you a winner in life. And don't tell me it helps you learn, because that's complete hogwash. Baruch Hashem, I learned plenty in my life, both secular studies as well as Torah. I did not need one hit of any type of drug whatsoever. I don't think the Ben Ish Chai or Rabbi Ovadia or any of the tzaddikim needed pot to learn. As a matter of fact, just so you know, it's actually a sin. How do we know it's a sin? Because the Torah tells us that you're not allowed to ever pray to Hashem unless you are fully there. Meaning that if you just smoked pot, you're not allowed to go to Beit Knesset. Because your prayer is considered to'avat Hashem. It's considered disgusting. So instead of getting a mitzvah, you're getting an averah. The simple solution is don't do it. So now, I needed to have this drug so I could stop having this pain, but it's not working. Baruch Hashem, eventually the doctor says we gave him the most amount of morphine legally allowed, which would kill most people, and finally it calmed his body down. So, Baruch Hashem, they calm my body down, I'm no longer in pain, and foolishly the doctors decide to release me after a few hours. They say, okay, yeah, this was just a hiccup. He can go home, he'll be fine. I felt fine, because I have enough drugs in my body to kill a horse. I said, okay, fine, let's go home. Thank you for the adventure of making me see Gehenom. It was a lot of fun. At least I know that Gehenom actually exists in this world too. I got a shiur Torah at the hospital. So, I go to the house. On the way home, my father stops at the shawarma place. We get the shawarma. It's a very famous shawarma because I've said the story many times, and each time I remember the shawarma.
Where is it?
I have a shawarma. We bought it in Brooklyn. I think it was Olympic Pita.
Oh.
And everybody knows Olympic Pita. So I went there, had shawarma. We actually took the shawarma home. Went to my fancy apartment. We're at the house. I tell everybody, thank you for the adventure today. It was nice to see everyone. I enjoyed my shawarma. I'm going to sleep. So I thought the interesting story full of pain was over. 45 minutes later, I wake up with worse pain than I had in the hospital. Two differences now. Number one, there's no doctors to give me morphine. Number two, the pain doesn't stop for the next 62 days. 62 days of this horrendous pain, where for the most amount of, after putting a lot of painkillers and everything else, the most amount of consecutive sleep I can get over 62 days is 15 minutes. Now David HaMelech was a tzaddik. So he had Ruach HaKodesh, he was a Navi, he was amazing. So him, sleeping 15 minutes a day was normal. Someone who doesn't have even an ounce of any of the merits of the Torah or the knowledge that David HaMelech has, can't survive that way. So once you are not sleeping for an extended period of time, you start dying. Your body starts failing. So my liver started to fail, I started peeing blood. My eyes started bleeding. My ears became infected. And slowly but surely I was dying. But in a really mitah meshuna. Doctors can't do anything for me. They won't even accept me in the hospitals because they said we can't do anything for him. And it got to a point where at some point my mom told me that somebody told her I was going to die. For whatever reason or another, after 62 days, Hashem had mercy on me. I said, okay, maybe you got the point this time. I gave you a bunch of tests throughout your life, you didn't get the point, maybe this time you got the point. So after 62 days, the pain started subsiding. There was still a lot of pain all day, but it was manageable. I only had to take 25 painkillers a day. And I started going back to life. I started going back to the office, but it was hard for me to walk, it was hard for me to move. But nonetheless, I was able to start functioning mentally at least, and I was able to start sleeping for a few hours a day. And by the way, one of the outcomes, another outcome of not sleeping for an extended period of time is also you start hallucinating. Start seeing things. Start losing your mind. So finally I realized that I'm getting better because my mind was coming back to me. One of the things that I usually like to do to test myself is math problems in my head. 5 times 5, 50 times 50, 300 times 312, 5,012 times 15, whatever, all different types of problems that take a little time to calculate. To see if my brain's working, then I know, okay, Baruch Hashem, I'm alive. So anyway, I go back to life, but I don't listen to the instructions that Hashem gave me. The text message that He sent me, I didn't listen to, I ignored it. The WhatsApp message, I ignored it. The email, I ignored it. And when He knocked on my door, I also ignored it. So Hashem has to come back. So a few months later, I feel pain in my leg. And it doesn't go away. And I have to go to the emergency room. And then they tell me in the emergency room that I have an infection in between two muscles, that if it was delayed within a matter of a couple of hours, it would have exploded, got into my blood system, it would have killed me instantly. So I have to have an emergency surgery, but this surgery is much, much more complicated and difficult and painful than the first one. I have to actually stay in the intensive care unit for a few weeks, next to the dying people, the people that get shot and all types of fun stuff. So I'm in an intensive care unit with a morphine drip connected to me 24 hours a day. I'm pressing the button non-stop, and life is hell. Eventually I leave the hospital, I go back to life. I still don't get the sign. I still don't answer the email that HaShem sent me. I still don't look up. I still don't lay tefillin. I still don't keep Shabbat. And the problems persist. 3 months later, I'm back in the hospital for another surgery. Same thing. I still don't listen. A couple of months later, I'm back in the hospital. And then eventually it gets to a point where I have a new infection, a new problem every month. And then my life continues to deteriorate, and it gets to a point where I think a summer or 2 summers later, one day I start feeling my feet start hurting. A couple of days later, I notice that my legs have doubled in size and I can't walk. I go to the hospital, they tell me, maybe it's the heat. Because it's the middle of the summer. The heat. So what do I look like to you? An old lady that's been walking for 5 miles with a shopping bag? What do you mean it's the heat? It's like we can't explain it any other way, why your legs doubled in size and you can't walk and it's in pain. So you should probably go back to medical school. Medical school. With all the medical school that they went to, 100 years they went to medical school, they still don't know how to diagnose anything. They sent me home, and now my walking ability becomes a disability. For the next year I have to walk around with a cane. I'm in pain 24 hours a day for my legs now, aside from the rest of my body. And little by little, life becomes more and more meaningless. I start losing money because I can't work as much, and also HaShem starts taking it away. Where in the past, every deal that I would do would work out. I would turn dust into gold. Now I'm turning gold and platinum into dust. Everything starts failing. HaShem says, Li kesef v'li za'av. Neum HaShem tzevaot. Says this to the prophet Haggai. Says to him, mine is the money, mine is the silver, mine is the gold. Everything is mine. Give me a reason to give it to you. It's all mine. Money you have in the bank is my money. The money you want is my money. The money he has is my money also. Everything is mine. I gave you a bunch of it, assuming you'll do the right thing. You thought the right thing was depending on everybody else's mitzvot. You bought a Sefer Torah for other people to read. You donated to the Knesset for everyone else to attend. You donated to the family for them to pray. But like Hillel told us, Im ena nili mili. If I'm not for myself, who's for me? You can't rely on your grandfather's mitzvot, or your father being a rabbi, or your teacher being a tzaddik. What about you? If I'm not for myself, who's for me? It's not going to help you, your father's tzaddik. Every day I see different people, and many of them, unfortunately, are chilonim, they don't keep anything. I tell them, when are you going to keep Shabbat? You know, you don't keep Shabbat, your Judaism is on suspension. According to the Rambam, Hilchot Shabbat, chapter 30, a Jew that violates Shabbat is considered 100% an idol worshiper. Not like a goy that could be a tzaddik, like Job. Job, we have a Sefer Torah. One of the books in the Torah, one of the 24 books, is the book of Job. Job was not Jewish. Eov. And Job was a tzaddik, he was a prophet. Went through a big tikkun, but nonetheless, he was righteous enough for Hashem to write a piece of the Torah about him. He didn't write about me. Him he wrote. And he's not Jewish. So you see that not being Jewish is not necessarily a bad thing if you were born not Jewish. But to live like a non-Jew when you're a Jew is a serious problem. Because when you're living like a non-Jew, when you are a Jew, Hashem doesn't consider you a righteous non-Jew. He considers you an idol worshiper. And that's a bad place to be. So now, I'm violating Shabbat. I'm not doing anything for myself. I'm relying on everyone else. Figure you donate the money to the rabbi and he's going to do mitzvot. That's not what Hashem brought you to the world. Why? Because if he wanted to give money to the rabbi, he just told us, all the money is his anyway. You can give it to him in a different way. He doesn't need you. Don't tell me you're going to get a career and make $100 million because you're going to give tzedakah. Hashem doesn't need your tzedakah. He already has a lot. If he wants to give it to the rabbi, give it to the rabbi a different way. If he wants to give it to the school, give it to the different way. He doesn't need your help. The only thing he wants from you is for you to do mitzvot. Only thing he wants from you is for you to fulfill your purpose. And as we said earlier today to a few of the students I had a pleasant conversation with, it says in Gemara, Masechet Hagigah, if someone is not involved in Kvod Hashem, in the honor of Hashem, on a daily basis, the Gemara says it was better that he never came to the world. Ad kedei kach, to that extent. Meaning, you have to do something every day, try. You don't necessarily succeed every day. We're rewarded for effort. Execution is Hashem's business. It's none of your business. You try to help people do tshuva. Whether they do tshuva or not is Hashem's business. You keep Shabbat. Whether you do it the best possible way or not is your effort. Hashem will decide what's going to happen. You try to learn a lot of Torah. Whether you become a Talmid Chacham or not is Hashem's decision. You work, you exert your effort, Hashem will decide whether you succeed or not. But the point is, you are responsible for trying. So you're responsible for trying to do Kavod Hashem every day. Do something for Hashem every day. Not once a week. Not once a month. Not once a year. Not be one of these people, oh no, for that, I haven't gone to the shul in 3 years. I donated $5,000 for Parnassah and Yom Kippur. No thank you. Kvod Hashem every day. Maharaj says if you don't do it every day, serious problem. There's no purpose. You're not fulfilling your purpose. So me donating all the money, only thing it helped me with is that it gave me more time to do tshuva. That's it. It says tzedakah tetzil mimavet. Okay, so Hashem, even though He had many, many reasons to take me out of this world because I had plenty of sins, apparently tzedakah gave me a little more time. But it wasn't like time like I was enjoying it, it was time I was suffering. Nonetheless, eventually, I get to a point where I don't want to live anymore, and my mom makes a phone call. She tries to get a bracha from some rabbis. She calls different rabbis all over the world, in Israel, in the US, in different places. You know, every Sephardic mom has a phone book full of rabbis' names. And she calls these different rabbis, but today, no one's answering the phone. And she calls this number in Israel, and a woman answers the phone after an hour and a half of calling people. Finally, somebody answers the phone. A woman answers the phone and says, "Is Kvod Harav so-and-so there?" And the woman says in Hebrew, "I'm sorry, wrong number." So after you call for an hour and a half to get a bracha for your dying son and no one answers, and finally somebody answers and you got the wrong phone number, my mom broke down. She starts crying over the phone to this strange lady. And Yishtabach Shemo La'ad, Hashem peeks in and shows us who's boss. When the woman says, "Doris," which is my mom's name, the woman not only knows my mom, but she identified her voice. And my mom is in shock. She stops crying and she says, "Who are you and how do you know my name?" She says, "I'm Penina, your niece." My mom dialed the wrong phone number in the wrong country, and she got to a person that not only knows her, but later on we find out is the only person that can help. So Penina says to her, "What's wrong?" And my mom is still shocked. She says, "Well, how did I get to you? I don't even have your phone number. We've never spoken on the phone before." They didn't have an existing relationship. They were related, but you know, like many of us have cousins, or nieces or nephews and so on, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're BFFs. So, she says to her, I don't know how you reached me, but if Hashem made you reach me, obviously there's a purpose for it. She says, what's wrong? And she says, well, listen, my son is dying. Everyone knows it's a problem. I'm looking for a blessing. She says, well, if you're looking for a blessing, why don't you call Rabbi Chaim, my brother? He's a big Talmid Chacham, and he also lives next door to Rav Ovadia. Zecher Tzadik Libracha. He says, oh, you would talk to me? She goes, of course, you're the aunt from America. I'll talk to you. Call him. So my mom calls him. And Rav Ephraim is obviously at the caller, so he doesn't pick up. But then his wife picks up, and she has Ephraim call her my mom. And he calls my mom. And now I didn't even know who Ephraim was. I never knew he existed before this day. I didn't know I had a cousin that was a Talmid Chacham. I didn't know I had a cousin that named Ephraim Bechlal. But he calls my mom, and my mom talks to him, and she cries, and she says this and that, and help him, and Ephraim gets to a point, he goes, okay, does he speak Hebrew? She goes, yeah, he speaks a little Hebrew. He goes, can I talk to him? And he says, no, he's probably not going to want to talk to you. He doesn't talk to anybody anymore. And at that very moment that she's telling Rabbi Ephraim that I won't talk to him, I decide to call my mom on the other line, and she picks up hysterical, crying, saying, talk to him, as if I already know who she's talking to. And I said, to who, and why you're crying, and why is this person making you cry? She goes, talk to Ephraim. And I'm like, who's Ephraim Bechlal? She goes, it's your cousin, he can help you, he can this. I'm like, all right, just stop crying. Anyone you want to talk to me, just tell him to call me, I'll answer. And Ephraim calls, and we start talking. And he gives me the first story that he tells me. He goes, you like stories? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? He tells me a story about Judah and Tamar. And different wisdom behind the story, why Hashem made it so. And I love the story, and we talk for an hour and 40 minutes. We learn Torah, I ask him questions, he gives me answers. And I find out that this cousin of mine is a very smart guy. So a week later, he calls me same time, same day, Thursday, 4 o'clock, and we talk for 3 hours. Divrei Torah, I ask him questions, he gives me answers. But he gives me the type of answers that are the best answers. Answers with a source. I ask him a question, he gives me an answer where he's like, oh, Rabbi so-and-so asked the same question 812 years ago in this book, on this chapter, on this page. To me, I never knew what a Talmid Chacham was. I'm like, how do you know the page? How do you know the book? So I thought maybe he knows like 2 books. So I can just continue asking questions. And he just keeps giving me answers with the page number, with the rabbi, with the this, with the that. And I'm like, how does he know this stuff? I ask him science questions, he knows the answers. I ask him business questions, he knows the answers. I ask him, Baruch Hashem, it's Shtabach Shem Allah. I never saw anything like it. It's similar to my student that Baruch Hashem converted yesterday. We had a merit, Baruch Hashem, having another student convert to Judaism, left falsehood of Christianity, but was mamash connected to the Torah. She became addicted to it. So the Beit Din, usually a conversion, by the time the conversion actually takes place, they know if the convert's serious or not. So they ask him a few questions. It's not like a meeting of 5 hours or anything. They ask him a few questions. If you know the answers and it looks like you've changed your lifestyle, looks like everything is good, they convert you. But the Beit Din was so impressed with her answers, they would ask her one question, she'd give them an extensive answer with sources. So it just became like an interesting lesson. It became like a chavuta. For an hour and a half, they're asking a question just to see how much more she knows. It's like they start telling us, like, listen, we're not actually going to ask you this for conversion. We just really want to know how much you know. It's like asking, you know what my machonim is? Oh yeah, my machonim is Masechet Megillah. You do it because of this and because of that. It's some parts of minag, but also it's this and it's that. She gives them the whole details. Oh, you know this, you know that. It becomes like a chavuta. Someone is dedicated can become a Talmid Chacham, even if they come from another nation. So now I find this Talmid Chacham, and I start getting some answers to questions I had my whole life. And ultimately, these questions lead me to a point of realizing that not only is Hashem real, but it's the Hashem of the Torah. And now Hashem gave us this instruction set, and I have to start learning it. I have to start seeing what it says. And I have to start getting to a point of doing it. So little by little, I start learning Torah. I start dedicating time to the Torah. And little by little, the material world gets to a point of being completely meaningless to me. Mainly because I start seeing HaShem run the world. How so? After 7 years of suffering and being in pain and going to over 50 different doctors, just trying to diagnose the problem, not solve it. Because in order to solve a problem, first you have to know what the problem is. So I went to over 50 different doctors, experts in all types of fields of medicine, whether it was traditional medicine or holistic medicine, acupuncture, steroids, surgeries, whatever you want. I became an experiment even at some point in a science study. They started injecting ozone into my bloodstream a few times a week, figuring maybe it'll clean my blood system by purifying my blood. They didn't realize that the only way to purify your blood is by eating kosher food. You could have ozone going to your blood system, which theoretically is supposed to clean your blood system. But if you're a Jew eating non-kosher, whether it's non-kosher meat, non-kosher chicken, or even non-kosher pizza, which by the way is milk and meat at the same time. If you just look at the ingredients of pizza, everyone has the same basic ingredients: cheese, tomatoes, and bread. Why am I saying it's milk and meat? It's worse than eating pig. Eating pizza at Pizza Hut, eating pizza at Domino's, eating pizza at Gino's, or one of these non-kosher places is worse than eating pig. Because pig, it's one sin. Eating non-kosher pizza has multiple sins. And the reason why is one of the ways that they make cheese is by using different types of meat that comes from the stomach of pigs and other non-kosher animals. And even sometimes kosher animals, but nonetheless, it comes from meat. The way to make different types of sauce is by using different types of meat that they cook it with. And this is not a theory, this is a fact. You look up cheese, you go to the supermarket, and you look at the dairy aisle, and you'll see there is 150 different types of cheeses that are not kosher, and 5 that are kosher. Why? The 150 don't want to pay rabbis to make it kosher? Has nothing to do with the rabbis. It has to do with the ingredients. An ingredient of using different parts of the stomach of animals as part of cheese is already mentioned in the Gemara for over 2,000 years. When the Gemara asks in Masechet Avodah Zarah, are we allowed to eat the cheese of the Goyim? It says no, because they use meat to make it. So now, I didn't know this, so I would say, no, I don't eat burgers at McDonald's, I don't eat this at some other tarif place, but I eat pizza. Or I eat the pasta with some cheese on it, not thinking it's a big deal. Little do I know that I'm making a worse sin. Milk and meat at the same time. So you can put all the ozones in the world in my blood, it's not going to help, because my blood's still not pure. So slowly but surely, I start realizing that this instruction set is something I have to listen to 100%. There's no such thing as a half a Jew. It's either you're a real Jew or nothing. So I start listening to this instruction set, I start learning it, and then I discover a chidush. In Torah, in this week's parasha and last week's parasha, it mentions a few interesting things. We meet Yaakov Avinu and Esav, his brother. When someone comes to me, secular, tell me, oh, my father is a tzaddik, my grandfather is a tzaddik, they're a rabbi, they're this, they're that. So I tell him, how come you don't keep any mitzvot? He goes, no, but my father's a big tzaddik. I said, yes, but Esav's father was also a tzaddik. He was actually Gdol Ador. His name was Yitzhak Avinu. But if you look in the prophet Malachi, Hashem says, Yaakov, I loved him, but Esav saneti, I hated Esav. I hated Esav, he says. Both of them, their father was a tzaddik. Why did Hashem hate him? In Targum it says that Esav was born with a beard. Not just hairy on his body, he actually was born with a beard. Looked like a mekubal. Esav was also a ben Torah. He knew Torah. Knew a lot of Torah. He knew so much Torah that he asked Yitzchak Avinu, Abba, how much salt do we have so I can give maaser off the salt? You want to give maaser off salt. You don't give maaser off the salt. What do we learn from here? Esav was a kofel. He knew Torah, but he didn't listen. He knew Torah, but he didn't follow. But he pretended to. So he had a long beard. Sweep the floor. Just like Osama bin Laden. He knew Torah, but he still served his father dogs. When Yitzchak Avinu sent him to go find him deer to eat, he couldn't find the deer, so he just killed the 2 hunting dogs he went with and he served it to his father, Hashem Menachem. My phone's also giving me the sign. So Hashem says, Esav saneti, I hated him. Why? Because he knew the truth, he didn't follow. We're going to finish with 2 points. Ezrat Hashem. Now in this week, we see that Yaakov asks Hashem, Hashem, please protect me from Esav, my brother. Yaakov, after he went to YeShiva for 14 years, without sleeping, learning Torah, Kiddush Hashem, becoming Yaakov Avinu, then not saying Lashon Hara about Lavan that's cheating him for 20 years, still not even telling the wives that their father's a cheater, just not to say Lashon Hara. Yaakov Avinu is asking Hashem, don't have my Rasha brother kill me? How does this make any sense? So what does he do? He goes, okay, you know what? I'm going to send them all of these sheep and chickens and cows. What's that going to do? You send him cows so he doesn't kill you? You send him chickens so he doesn't kill you? You know, Masha Nes, Siyat Dishmaya, on the way here had this chidush. Shlomo HaMelech, in the book of Proverbs, Mishlei, it says, Im tevakshena kakesef, uchematmonim techapsena, az tavin yirat Adonai, v'da'at Elohim timtza, ki Adonai yiten chokhma mipiv da'at u'tvuna. So Hashem says, if you seek it, referring to the Torah, if you seek it as if it were silver, if you search for it as if it were a treasure, then you will understand the fear of Hashem and discover the knowledge of God. For Hashem grants wisdom, from His mouth comes knowledge and understanding. So Hashem is telling you, if you seek knowledge of Torah, like it's silver and treasure, then I'll give it to you. Then you'll understand that I run the world. Then you'll have Yirat Shamayim. Then you'll know who I am. But another word for silver, it also means kesef. Kesef means money. Meaning, if you chase my Torah like you chase money, then I'll give you the answer. Then I'll give you everything. And it gave me a chidush. When Hashem says, Li ha-kesef v'li ha-za'av, ne'um Hashem tzevaot, if He has the gold, why does He mention the silver? Because the silver is not silver. The silver is money. But money is also saying, if you're chasing my Torah like you chase money, then I can give you the za'av also. Then I can give you olam haba as well as olam hazeh. Then you're fulfilling your purpose. So you see, my friends, when people ask me, after you got healed, with siyata dishmaya, Hashem healed you, Hashem gave you everything, Full health is everything already. Full health, you're already a winner. Why don't you just go back to Wall Street and make money again? The answer is because I don't want to be Esav. You see, the reason why Yaakov Avinu in this week's parasha sent them chickens, sent them cows, and sent them material is because he knew that even though Esav knew the truth, he didn't care about it. All he cared about was material. All he cared about was kesef. All he cared about was zahav. All he cared about was honor. All he cared about was kavod. He didn't care about the firstborn right. He cared about the inheritance that comes with it. So when Yaakov said, listen, if I'm going to protect myself against Esav, oh, I remember. He sold the firstborn right because he wanted material. He wanted the food. He's so into food that he's willing to sell his firstborn right. But then he figured that he's going to cheat me. But then Abba, Yitzchak Avinu, gave me the blessing anyway. So now he's thinking, oh, I'm going to get all the money. So now he wants to kill me. And I tell him, no, you don't have to kill me. Here's all the money. Here's all the money. Why was Yaakov so comfortable with giving him all this money? Because he finally understood what Liah Kesef means. He says, I already have Torah. I don't need money. Any questions? Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen ve'amen.
من هو قلت من نعصم ويتاك الشاب بعدين خلاص البعدين أنا خان حساب حرام كل شوية عام وعمين إيش تمر بنا يا حمصان شو أنا حوش خبرة